What's going on, everyone? Welcome to chapter 1 of my official review of the Bleach light novel Can't Fear Your Own World. This is a very detail heavy novel, and due to that, I'm going to have to break these reviews into very small chunks. But I hope you enjoy this. I'll see you on the other side, enjoy the intro, and I'll see you back here. Now, I won't waste anybody's time, I'm just gonna jump right into it. The first thing I noticed when I picked up this novel is that Can't Fear Your Own World is a callback to Bleach chapter 384, where Shuhei Hisagi battles his former captain Kaname Tosen. So right off the bat, I think it's very neat that the title of a story that primarily focuses on Shuhei is a callback to a chapter that he actually had direct involvement in. One of the first passages of text that you see when you read this book is an excerpt from the Soul Reaper Academy handbook. There are two quotes from the book. One is an older edition and the other is a newer edition. The quote speaks to how a Soul Reaper should conduct himself and the perspective he should view the world in. The important difference between the older and the newer edition is the fact that in the older edition, the quote directly references the king and the 5 dukes, whereas in the newer edition, it's heavily ambiguous and doesn't mention it at all. I find that very interesting, and I'm curious to know if it plays a bigger part moving forward. For now, all I can surmise is that in the older generations, the powers that be were much more comfortable allowing the general public to know about the king and the 5 dukes, which is probably a reference to the 5 great noble houses. So far, this is some intriguing stuff. We then move into the prologue, where the book gives a recap on the things that have happened so far. There was a war between the gods of death and the Quincy's. They give a nice little shout out to Ichigo being the one to kill the king of the Quincy's and king of the Soul Reapers. This is a direct reference to the fact that Ichigo is the one who cut down the Soul King, and he's the one who cut down Yhwach. In a way, Ichigo is directly responsible for the death of both the good king and the bad king. We also learn that the general population of Soul Reapers and common folk are not being told the details about what happened in the Blood War. They do not know about the assimilation of the Soul King into Yhwach along with the consequent death of him. The idea here is that they feel that if word got out, there will be mass hysteria. Now, I cannot say I agree with this, but Narita is showcasing a very accurate presentation of the Soul Society. Their moral compass is heavily flawed. I have a video coming out specifically on this subject, so look forward to it. But Soul Society has a horrible track record of making unethical decisions that usually backfire one way or the other. Let's hope this is not that situation. As the story moves on, we encounter Shunsui Kyoraku and Ichibe Hyosobe, who are having a conversation as the dead body of Yuha lies before them. There is some intense dialogue between these two, so I'm gonna have to pump the brakes here. I mean, the conversation's good and all, but the characters of these two shine through because this is very deep stuff. Okay, so you guys ready? Let's look into this, like a deep look into what happens here. Shunsui is focused on the dead body of Yuha, to whom he calls Ryo, and Ryo means the Spirit King. Ichibe knows that Shunsui is intrigued by the Ryo and mentions that the concept of old and new don't apply to the Ryo. There is simply value in having something here to be able to call the Ryo. Now, Shunsui answers this and I love what he says. He asks if Ichibe is implying the power is all in the name. Now, I find this very interesting because Ichibe Hyosobe as captain of Squad 0 is also the man who named all the things in Soul Society. His power of black grants him the ability to rewrite the name of anything he wishes, so I find it both extremely satisfying and relevant for Shunsui to say that to him. Ichibe does not answer and Shunsui continues to talk, mentioning something that shocks me. He laments that in the worst case scenario, Ichigo Kurosaki would have been sealed to that name. That caught me by surprise on my first reading. Ichigo being sealed to the Soul King? Without using the extra information we may have after this point, my mind immediately thinks, how? How can Ichigo be sealed to the Ryo? What qualities does he have that make him compatible? Isn't the Ryo an inanimate object that is there just to keep the balance? The Soul King we had prior to this had no limbs. Is that what would have happened to Ichigo? Although Yuha became the Soul King, he was mobile, so maybe it doesn't work that way. Obviously, as you can see, I had a lot of questions, but let's move on. Ichibe answers in a laid-back fashion and simply says, well, good thing he wasn't, huh? and Narita specifically writes that his voice was free of emotion. This dude is talking about sealing Ichigo and he isn't even the least bit emotional or taken back by this. This man does not care. He would 100% do this, and that's crazy. But he redeems himself by saying that he would have been sad if he had to seal Ichigo. Shunsui then mentions how he gave Ichigo's friend soul tickets so they could come to Soul Society whenever they wanted, just in case Ichigo became so strong that he had to remain in Soul Society. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I call BS. I think Shunsui knew that there was a chance that Ichigo would have been sealed and wanted to have a way for his friends and family to say their farewells in that scenario. The story confirmed my suspicions, because Shunsui had indeed taken those precautions because he knew there was a very likely scenario where Ichigo might be sealed. So I gotta tell you guys, Soul Society is a dark place. There are so many things wrong with this place and it's very interesting to me. After speaking a little more, Shunsui tells Ichibei straight to his face that I'm glad you and the others didn't kill Ichigo. Again, Ichibei with no emotion does not confirm or deny it. He just brushes it off and says something weird. If anything, we needed him to lose. That's a weird thing to say. Think back to the Bleach manga, chapter 612, two shadows head into the battlefield, and look at the last page of that manga. When Ichibei gets defeated by Yuha and is killed, he asks Ichigo to call out his name and that's the way he comes back. But after that, on the last page of chapter 612, Ichibei is shown speaking to himself and he says these words, "Sorry young ones, we cannot win against Yuha Bach." And I remember at that time, we were all assuming that he simply meant that Yuha was too strong, but no, he actually knew that Yuha was hell-bent on absorbing the Soul King and taking his place, in which case, destroying Yuha would also destroy the world. So a lot of the things Kubo set up in Bleach lead nicely and perfectly into this novel. Shunsui makes one last statement that catches my eye. He asks Ichibei if his actions are a result of the will of the Soul King or the will of the 5 noble clans. Ichibei replies and berates Shunsui for speaking so badly about the founders. Now, I wonder about this statement. Is he referring to the original individual founders themselves or the houses as a whole? Because Ichibei says the founders are dead, so I want to believe that Shunsui is referring to the founders themselves. However, if they're dead and Shunsui knows they're dead, who is Shunsui referring to? Very, very interesting developments here. Unfortunately, their conversation is cut short by an explosion, and that is where we will end on this specific video. So here's my review of this. So this is some tier 1 stuff so far. Marvelous storytelling. The dialogue is laced with details and breadcrumbs leading back to hundreds of chapters ago. I think this is going to turn out to be great, and I want the Bleach anime to adapt this after they're done with the manga. My rating for this little segment is a 9.5 out of 10. Super stuff. Now if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe because I'm going to be focusing solely on the novel for a while. I was on the stream and you guys said you wanted this, and so I'm delivering. So please like, comment, subscribe, and share to not miss anything. It's your boy Rebirth signing out. Peace.